Oh, I love these. And it's from a battle-hardened Catholic Christian. I know a thing or two about being battle-hardened myself. That's the one where war gives you an erection, right?
Question 10.
Holy shit, did we just skip to the end? Oh no. Did I black out again? Damn it, this always happens when I'm doing a 10 questions for the atheists, because they are always really, really dumb. And I mean, this one might sound okay, but 10 questions atheists should be able to answer is definitely going to be 10 questions atheists should be able to answer. But they can't because they are dumb and idiots. And I am the smart theist boy who's going to expose them this time by asking a bunch of questions that have absolutely nothing to do with atheism, just like a science would.
Why doesn't man have a natural predator?
Wow, not only are we starting with the wrong question, but it's obviously the worst one too. Right, I mean, fair enough, that's one way to do things. Start off terrible so that we can come back at the end and really screw it all up. But yeah, no, that's not even a correct premise. Humans absolutely have predators. There are things like bears and lions that will happily eat the shit out of a person. And the rest of them too. That's why people die of various critters all the time. And if we were to go back several thousand years, even more so. Now, to be fair to your question, let's make it something a little less silly and answer that instead. Why don't people generally have to worry about getting edited in their day-to-day lives today? Well, that's because they are fools. I will eat them all eventually, but for everything else, it's because today people made towns and cities and all that other shit and get together as groups and communities, so if a predator does turn up, it's shooed away or killed or whatever. And eventually the smart ones just avoid them because of how much they all suck.
Question 9. Where is man's natural environment or habitat?
Oh, you're doing it backwards. Okay, that makes a bit more sense. And I love the fact that you are clearly doing this video as some sort of PowerPoint presentation, as that would explain the clicks and the bad transitions. You've got to love the ingenuity of internet smart people. They will always find a really clever way to make their internet videos in every possible way except using fucking video editing software that has been available in like all computers for decades. You know you are smart when doing things well just isn't an option. Anyway, what is mankind's natural environment? Well, I would say it's anywhere that's not near me, so I don't have to talk to them or see them or anything. But they end up everywhere anyway. And I suppose that is probably your point. Aha, man doesn't everywhere because goddamn big smart. Except no, otherwise people would live in the oceans, right?
Ocean, right?
Lots of space, and it makes up 70% of the planet, but no, humans are stuck in some rather specific spaces. In fact, they have a tendency to flock to areas that are water adjacent. And while some outliers go to other places, that really would seem to be the human's habitat. Near water, other resources also a benefit. And again, not because God make the universe for them, because most of that kills them even harder than the bears and the lions do.
Question 8. Why does man adapt the environment to himself and not adapt to the environment naturally?
Because that's a really effective survival adaptation. So effective, in fact. It's made humans one of the more successful creatures on the planet. If numbers are your metric. Although, if numbers are the one and only one, they get absolutely stomped by ants and other small critters. And hell, any metric you apply for any animal's success is going to be something arbitrary, so regardless, it's kind of meaningless. Also, to act as if humans are the only animals that change their environment is proof that you haven't actually thought about this question for even a second. Seeing as lots of animals change their environments to various degrees to suit their needs. I mean, back to ants, they build, and hell, they even farm things. And of course there's beavers that build dams and birds build nests, and really if you think about it, there are tons of animals that do something to the environment in order to make it more livable for them. The only real difference is scale. And yeah, humans probably have a bigger scale than an anything else. But if it wasn't them, then something else would have likely done it instead. Humans just happened to be the ones that won that particular arms race. And of course, that's got nothing to do with Big G.
Question 7. The Earth is in the solar system in the galaxy in the universe. What is the universe in?
My arsehole. Oh right, serious answers. Well, as a matter-of-fact answer, that would be fucked if I know. It could be a vast expanse of nothing. It could be an endless sea of strawberry jam. It could be being held by a giant beyond cosmic psychopath who's desperate for all the people who are beyond microscopic to him to care about and love him and send him wishes and Christmas cards. And if they don't, he has them sent to the pain dimension forever. But in no way gives them any clues as to what he wants or how to even get the cards to him. Oh, and if you sign it anything other than best wishes, you go to Hell Dimension with the other people who weren't even trying to please him. None of your season's greetings crap, that's for the heathens. But that's the thing, we don't know. If it's any of those, none of those, somehow all of those, it could be anything as far as our current evidenced understanding goes. And neither do you, regardless of what my book says, or what some guy in a fancy hat said was true. Unless it's me, but that's because my hat is made from whiskey.
Question 6. Where did all the existing matter in existence come from?
Okay, so obviously this is another one of those I don't know ones, but that doesn't mean we don't have some idea of where it came from up to a point at least. As studies of the everything show that the universe is expanding, so we know in all likelihood, if we go backwards, it was shrinking, and that everything would have bunched up into a single point, also known as the singularity. So as far as we know, that's where it all came from. And if you want to ask me where the singularity came from, well, you should have known about that concept first. And of course, I still don't know, but see, that's the thing. As much as I can't answer some of your questions with a definitive answer, I also don't have to. Aside from the fact that they have nothing to do with atheism, the fact that I can't answer them because we aren't and maybe never will get to the point where we can, means that you will never know if whatever answer you have is true, at least without dying first. And that's a bit of a jump just to get to know that you are right, especially if you're wrong and this is your only shot. You won't even get that amount of satisfaction. Won't that suck?
Question 5. What tells the amino acids to fire in a precise order in the perfect amounts to start the DNA chain?
That question makes absolutely no goddamn sense. What tells it to? Nothing tells it to. The same way nothing tells a tree to grow or a rock to roll down a hill or me to be handsome, famous and good at the sex. These are just things that happen because of a series of reactions within the universe. So anything that an amino acid does is because that's what amino acids do. You wording it like that suggests to me that you're one of those God literally runs everything in the universe at every single moment kind of guys. And that's always been such a silly concept, seeing as we understand the universe and it really doesn't need anything like that. Things just kind of work on their own, so any galactic overseer is rendered entirely redundant by the way that they apparently designed the universe to not need them. Well done, God. You played yourself.
Question 4. What gives DNA its precise instructions?
This is the same fucking question, isn't it? More or less, but fine, fuck it. Let's give it a crack. Evolution did DNA like everything else in any and all animals. It evolved over time to give it the thing that it does now. Although to say precise instructions is just you, yet again, not knowing what the hell you're talking about. DNA varies, not just from species to species, but to specific creature to specific creature. My DNA is not the same as either of my parents, but a mixture of the two. Your DNA, well, probably closer to both your parents because inbreeding is a bitch, is still going to be different because of both the combination of DNA that mating achieves, but also due to mutations, such as duplications and copying differences. And these changes are passed on to you and your spouse's children too. You know, depending on if you manage to do a sex at someone, and if you can't, well, your genes stop there. And someone else who is more sexually successful than you will have their DNA spooted about the place instead, and so on and so forth. And that's what makes DNA the way it is. Come the end of time, it will look very different from how it is now. And guess what? No God need, yet again.
Question 3. Mathematically speaking, what are the odds that 90% of the world population who believe in a god or gods are under a mass delusion, but you are not?
What a stupid fucking question. What percentage of the most people are under a mass delusion? I mean, if they're wrong, then I guess it's 100%, because that's the thing. What you are actually asking is, what is the percentage chance that God actually exists? And that's a fucking ridiculous thing to ask anyone. And the 90% thing is really dumb anyway, because aside from the fact that it would be less than 90%, you're also confusing people who believe in God with people who believe in your God. So suddenly, you're going to have to ask, what's the percentage of all the other religious guys that they are under a mass delusion? And can you answer that? Or can you answer your original question? Do you have an answer that isn't steeped in bias? I mean, the idea that anyone could answer such a question is completely absurd to me, let alone that somehow we need to do that in order to continue to not buy the claims that God does are real. It's completely ridiculous.
Question 2. If, when people die, they cease to exist, yet science tells us that energy animates the body, and energy cannot be created or destroyed, and thus lives forever, how is it that we cease to exist in our grave?
I actually don't hate this question, because it's one that is pretty fun to answer. While some of his concepts aren't entirely accurate, let's just give them for sake of argument. So, okay, first off, where does the living person get energy? Food, right? What happens if you don't get enough food? You don't get enough energy, you die. So that energy is always going down as it's released through heat and kinetic movement and what have you, and needs topping up. But if you're dead, well, you ain't doing that no more. So that energy radiates out into the ground, and whatever is left is consumed by other creatures for their living purposes, and so on and so forth. Because that energy, as you think of it, is not static, and it's not yours, and it's not the same thing as consciousness, FYI. You are just borrowing it for a finite amount of time that you have doing and alive. Although I guess, in a sense, the way you've worded it is a kind of nice thing to think that that energy that was once part of you gets to go on making other things live, thus making you in some way part of the whole system, which I'm sure some would find rather comforting.
And the number one question that atheists should be able to answer is, does life have a purpose? If the answer is no, then scientifically and definitively, atheism is an illogical argument.
Are you actually serious? Atheism is illogical if I think that life has no purpose, and in this regard I'm taking purpose to mean life was made to do some specific thing for some specific reason, and if I think that's not true, then I also can't not believe in God. That doesn't make the remotest lick of goddamn sense. First off, God or no, life and or the universe does not require purpose. A God could make the universe with no reason for it at all. It just did it because, I don't know, it wanted to see what would happen. And if there is no God, there could be some facet of the universe that generates purpose for whatever reason. Neither of those things are mutually exclusive. One can be without the other. Both could be, neither could be, and all of those combinations are perfectly reasonable states of affairs if that's what turns out to be true.
For life to have purpose, reason is required. Reason comes from intelligence.
Atheism is illogical if life has no purpose because life having purpose needs reason. Did you not hear the words you said earlier? If I say no, it doesn't matter if purpose needs reason because I don't think there is purpose. Now, that's not to say that purpose requires reason at all. Figuring out what the purpose is would probably require some amount of reason, but having it, that would just be an inherent property of whatever has purpose applied to it. Like, does a TV need to know that its purpose is to fire photons into your eyeballs in order to have that be the thing that it is for? No, of course not. And YouTube doesn't need to be able to reason that it's for showing my videos to all the people on the internet right now. And hey, you lot wouldn't want to make purpose a liar, would you? So make sure to share and subscribe and all that good shit. Good humans.
So you have to ask yourself, if life has no purpose, then your argument for atheism just doesn't work and it cannot be rationalized.
I am just so baffled by this argument. Are you trying to say that to even be able to deny the concept of purpose requires reason? Because that's not what you're saying, and that wouldn't change the fact that reason is not intrinsically linked to purpose, whether you believe it or not. This sounds like the kind of thing someone said to you one time and you thought, that sounds good, and then started repeating it to everyone you have ever met without once stopping to actually, think about what the hell any of it's supposed to mean.
If life has a purpose, then you must conclude that that purpose has a reason, and that reason comes from intelligence.
No, you really mustn't. That's just something that you have decided that you have to do, but with no justification as to why. I mean, maybe if you explained that reasoning, it might be really good and smart and will convince me that you're right. But considering how much of this video demonstrates you don't seem to know a whole heap of anything, that seems to be, well, unlikely at best. But until you even attempt such a thing, all I have to say is, no.
So, does life have a purpose?
Inherently, no, but that doesn't mean that there is no such thing as purpose. Purpose is something that humans invented, an idea that gets across the notion that something is meant to do a particular thing. And when it comes to people, a purpose doesn't have to be extrinsic. It can be something that you give yourself. It can be whatever you want it to be. And just because no big universe maker told you what that was or decided that it had to be whatever he wanted, that doesn't make the value of those self-determined purposes any less than had anyone else done so. Anyway, that's that. 10 questions we should be able to answer in order, I assume, to be allowed to remain atheists. And I gotta say, I am convinced that you didn't even read the definitions that you've shown at the end of your video there. But the things you actually said, yeah, less so. How about next time, try harder?
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstaff Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was gonna tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the